So let us start today's session. I hope I'm audible. Okay, yeah, yeah. Let me share my screen. So in our previous sessions, we have started with our arrays and we have successfully completed all the type of arrays like our associative array. We have also started with our queues and dynamic arrays and this and all we have started and we have completed in our previous sessions, right? Now, and we have also started with some built-in functions, but we haven't seen completely about this built-in functions. We thought of going into discussing about what do you mean by functions and tasks, and come back to this built-in functions and let us discuss that. That is what we have. That is what we had planned. Okay. Yes. So let us start with this particular tasks and functions in this particular session, and let us try to understand what are these and why are we going to use this, what is the syntax and how to use them, and then come back to associative arrays, built-in functions and tasks. Okay. Now, so before going to start with functions and tasks, can anyone tell me why do we need them? Like, why are we going to learn them? It may be a task or it may be a function. Why are we learning them? Why do we need them? Can anyone tell me? Reusability. It executes a serial statements exactly. Okay. For building and simulating the abstracting. Okay. So these are also known as subroutines. Okay. So these are basically also known as subroutines. So let's say suppose if you have some repetitive task which is going to happen. In this case, if you don't want to reuse it or if you don't want to rewrite the repetitive task for multiple times, you can use this tasks and functions. Basically, it's like a subroutine. Okay, for example, if you have a some 20 lines of display statements which they are going to display some particular values, and instead of using this 20 lines of display statements everywhere in your code, so what you can do is you can declare them in your task or you can declare them in your function, and if you call this task or function, this is going to execute all of them. Okay, so that is where you can think of using this tasks or functions, okay, which are basically subroutines. Now, so let us first of all try to understand about a function. Okay. And we'll come back to our task. Now, so your function is also a subroutine, which we have already discussed. Okay. So here we need to understand the sum of the rules in our functions. So the main rule here, yeah, exactly. Functions, exactly. That is what I'm going to have it. So basically here function should have no delay. Okay. So function should not have any delay statements like your hash statement or at the rate statement or wait statements. Okay. Or you can think of any particular statements where your function should not have any delay. It should execute within zero time units. Okay. So function should execute within zero time units. Whenever you're going to call a function, it should execute within zero time units. Exactly. Exactly. I'm coming to that particular point. Wait, wait. Okay. Now, in the case of your Verilog, we have seen these functions. If you haven't know about the Verilog functions and tasks, you can watch our playlist. So, in the case of our Verilog, let us see our functions. So, in the case of our Verilog, also we have functions. Okay. So, this particular functions have some arguments. Okay. So, what do you mean by arguments? That we will discuss later. Okay. So, here in the case of our Verilog functions, we should have at least one input argument. This is mandatory. Okay. So, we need to have at least one. But in the case of system Verilog, we don't need any input arguments. Okay. You can have functions with no arguments declared at all. Okay. And here, in the case of your Verilog, you need to have output arguments. you cannot have output arguments in the case of your Verilog. You cannot have output arguments. And if you are a person who is listening to these functions and tasks for the very first time, and if you don't know what do you mean by output arguments and input arguments, don't worry. We will discuss about all these particular things, and we'll come back to this particular slide. You will understand everything. Okay. Just I'm differentiating in the case if someone knows the Verilog functions. Okay. And in the case of Verilog, functions cannot have, functions cannot be void. Okay. So your in the case of your Verilog, your functions cannot be void. Okay. So this and all are the things which we have in our Verilog. Okay. First we will focus upon this particular points. Okay. First we will focus upon this particular points, and we have arguments are passed. Yeah. So first we will focus upon this particular points, and we will come back to another extra points which we will have, because there are few people who don't know about what do you mean by argument and what do you mean by functions and tasks. Okay. So let us first of all discuss about those particular points, and we will come back. Okay. Now, so first of all, let us see. Yes, yes, that is fine. That is fine. But first, let us discuss about what do you mean by return type and all, and we'll come back to this particular slides. Okay. Yeah. Now, first of all, let us start our discussion about what do you mean by function. Let us see the syntax of your function, how to declare your function. Okay. So the coming to the syntax of your function, so you're going to write down simply function is your keyword, and followed by the return type you need to have. This can be anything. The return type can be rich, integer, int, real, okay, or it can be string, it can be any data type. Okay. So function followed by the return data type you need to mention. Okay. And followed by input and output arguments. Input arguments and output arguments if you want, or else you can leave it at empty. Okay, without declaring any arguments. Okay. Now let us try to understand with a simple function. Let's say if I have a function and the return data type of this function is string. Okay. And let's say this function is going to have, uh, okay, we need to have the function name also. Sorry, I missed it. And followed by function name. Okay, this is my function. Okay, let me write it down over here. Yeah. So let's say if I have a function, and let's say the function is going to have a return data type as int. Okay, and the function name is add. Okay, and this function is going to have two arguments, x and y. These are the two arguments this function is going to have. Okay. Nowhere I haven't mentioned about input and argument output arguments. Let me show you. Yeah, here I have mentioned something known as what happened. This has been stuck there. Yeah. So here I've mentioned some input arguments and output arguments, and we haven't started with that particular discussion. Here in this particular example, I've just declared the arguments without any direction. I can have arguments without any direction. First, let us focus upon declaring your arguments without any direction at all. Okay. Now, specifically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down function int add, and I'm going to have two arguments, int x comma int y. I have two arguments, x comma y of data type int. Okay. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to write down add is equal to x plus y. Okay. And followed by end function. This is what I have done. Simple. Okay. So this is how you're going to declare a function. Function, return data type, add is my function name, int x, int y are my arguments. And I've written add is equal to x plus y and followed by end function. Okay. Now here if you carefully observe, I am using my variable as my function name. Okay. Here I can use this particular function name as my variable. Okay. And I can store the value, the result x plus y into this particular variable. Now, inside my code, within an initial begin and block, if I'm going to call this function, if I'm going to write down within an initial begin and block, if I'm going to write down initial begin, if I'm going to call this function add of let's say 0 comma 1. Okay. And let's say if I'm going to declare some other variable into result is equal to add of 0 comma 1. Okay. And let me write down the function over here so that I can show you parallelly. Function int add int x comma int y. Okay. And add is equal to x plus y end function. This is a function I have in my code. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just calling the function which is known as add. That is, I'm referring to this particular function. And what is the variable I'm passing? I'm passing 0. So that 0 will be copied to x and y will be copied to y, 1. Okay. Now, what is this function is going to do? It is going to add these two numbers x and y, and the resultant will be stored in this particular variable add. Whenever I'm going to call this function is going to return me a value. Okay, of which data type int, that I am going to store it onto the LHS, which is nothing but my result. Okay. So here the general rule is whenever you call a function, okay, so if you have a written data type declared, here in this particular example, I have declared the written data type of as int. So this particular function, whenever you call it, it is going to return you a value of which data type it is going to return you with a data type of int. Okay. That is how the functions are going to work in general. Is it clear for everyone? Yeah. No need of using any return statement. That is the beauty of your function. So if you are going to just call your function, it is going to return it. Okay. Let us see with one example also, it will be clear. Okay. So please let me know, is it clear for everyone how to declare your function, how your function is going to be declared and all? Is it clear? Okay. Yeah. Let me show you with one example. So I'm going to have a module add, and here I'm going to have a simple function which is known as add underscore two numbers. Int e, int b are my two of the arguments, and here add underscore two numbers. The same function name I'm using it as a variable, and it is going to add a and b and end function. I'm not using any return or something, right? So within an initial beginning block, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to declare one more variable into result, so that the result I'm going to store it in this particular variable. Result is equal to add underscore two underscore num 1 comma 2. I'm going to pass it, and let me display the result also. Dollar display, the value of result is percentage d comma result. Let us see what are we going to get. See, we are going to get 1 plus 2 is nothing but 3. The value of result is equal to 3. Is it clear, Srikanth? Function name and variable name should be same or not if we didn't return any return statement. I didn't get your question. Okay, what about others? Is it clear? Great, great. Okay, okay, got it. Let's say if I'm going to have some other name, let me run it. Let us see what are we going to get. So it is showing undeclared variable and function add to name should return a value. Okay. So let's say if I'm going to declare that particular variable over here, int add underscore. Now, let me run it again. Okay, it is not returning anything. It is returning the default value of 0. Okay, is it clear, Srikanth? And in upcoming slides, I will show you how to return it. We are going to use a keyword which is known as return. Okay, yes. Now, so let us see one more scenario over here. Let's say if I'm going to remove this particular assignment. Now, can anyone tell me what is going to happen? If I'm going to remove that particular assignment, what is that I'm going to get? I've removed this particular assignment. What do you think the value of result is? Waiting for other responses also. Come on. Okay. So let's see what are we going to get. We are going to get 0 only. Okay. Because we are not storing it anywhere, right? So result, we are just going to get simply 0. Okay. Is it clear? Yes. And if you use this particular, if you run this particular code in QuestaSim, you will get error. Okay. Why? Because your function is trying to return something, but you're not storing it anywhere. So you're going to get error. In some particular tools, you will get error. In EDA Playground, you're not going to get an error, but in QuestaSim or other tool, you will get the error. Okay. Yeah. Now let's say if so, this is my function with the return data type as int. Okay. Now in SystemVerilog, I have a keyword which is known as void. Okay. Now, what do you mean by void? Can you tell me what do you mean by void? Void means it is not going to return anything. No return data type. Okay. So that means if I'm going to have a simple function and the function is void, that is, it is not going to return anything, and it is the function name is, let's say, display. Okay. So if you call this particular function, it is not going to display anything. Exactly. It is not going to display anything. Okay. So let us see. Let's say if I'm going to have a simple function void display. Okay. And let's say if you call this function, it is just going to display hello. That's it. Okay. And followed by end function. Okay. And what are we going to do over here is we are going to call that function display. So what it is going to do, it is going to just call this function and it is going to display hello. That's it. Okay. But in Verilog, this void functions are not supported. Okay. So this void functions are not supported in Verilog. So in SystemVerilog, this is a new enhancement which we have where we can use this void functions, but in Verilog we don't have this. Okay, yeah. So these are not supported in Verilog. Okay. Now, after learning this functions and tasks by many freshers, we have many will face this particular doubt is this void functions can have any arguments or not. What do you think? Can void functions can have any arguments declared? Yes, we can. Okay. Now I am saying this many times arguments, arguments, arguments. Let us try to understand what do you mean by arguments. Okay. So let's say if you have any function, 1 minute, let me reshare it again. Why I'm getting little bit lag. Yeah. So let's say if I'm going to have any function. Okay. So let's say if I'm going to have a simple function and the function is int add and it is going to have my input int x, comma, input int y, comma, output int z. This is the arguments which I'm going to have for my function. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down z is equal to x plus y. Z is equal to x plus y and followed by end function. Okay. This is a function which I'm going to have. Let me write it down in the EDA playground itself. So if I'm going to have this input int a, input int b, comma, output int c. Okay. So what I'm going to write down, c is equal to a plus b. Okay. And I'm going to call this function and I'm going to pass 1 to this a, 2 to this b, and the result I'm going to have in the third argument. Okay. So let's see what is that I'm going to get. So the value of result which we are going to get 3. Okay. So same like your modules, like we can have input, output for our modules, right? In Verilog. So these functions can also have input arguments and output arguments as input and output as their arguments. Okay. So that you can pass that particular values and you can get the output that can be copied to this particular argument. Okay. So this is nothing but my input and output arguments, and functions can have input and output arguments declared with it. Okay. And in Verilog, in functions, you cannot have output arguments. That is a main thing which we have in Verilog. Okay. So in Verilog, you cannot have output arguments for a function. You cannot have output arguments. Okay. This is a new enhancement in SystemVerilog where we can have output arguments in case of our SystemVerilog, but we cannot have output arguments in the case of our Verilog. Okay. Yes. Now let's say if I have a void function. Okay. And let's say if I'm trying to assign a value result is equal to display. What is that I'm going to get? Result is equal to display. Display is a void function. I'm going to write down result is equal to display. Output is int, but you mentioned it argument is result. Instead of result, we can mention like 1 to c. Okay. You should declare c first. Okay. So here, if you want to pass any argument, you need to declare it. Okay. Without declaring how you're going to get. And coming to GPT question, here I have declared an argument of data type int. Okay, that argument I'm passing it. Recall your modules. So in Verilog we have modules, right? If you have a module with declared with int and int AB or reg AB inputs, you're going to write test bench and you're going to pass it, right? Same, you can recall, you can correlate with that particular thing. Okay. Is it clear, GPT and Malikarjun Vani? Yeah. Okay, coming to my question, coming to this question, if you are going to write down result is equal to display, where display is a void function, what is the value of result or what is that I am going to get? Think about it and answer. Okay, let us check it out. What are we going to get? So am I getting anything? No. Let me try to display it also. Actually, you are going to get an error, but here in EDA Playground, those type of errors are suppressed. If you're going to use a QuestaSim, you're going to get you're going to get error saying that void function is not going to display, void function is not going to return any value, and this assignment is an error. You're going to get this type of error. Okay, but in EDA Playground, you're not going to get anything. Just it is printing the hello and it is just ignoring the error. Okay, so please remember in point of your interview also you cannot have this type of assignment which is going to happen. Okay, so basically if you try to assign any particular value in the case of your void functions, it is not going to return any value and you should get a particular error. Is it clear, guys? Yes. Okay. Any queries in this particular thing? Right. Okay. Now, in the case of our Verilog, so in the case of our system Verilog, we have something known as return keyword. So this is basically going to return you something, some value. If you're going to write return A or return C, it is going to return that particular value. And also, it is going to come out of this particular function or the task where you're going to use this particular line. For example, if you're going to use this return keyword, let us say this is function void display hello. Before going to write down hello, what I'm going to write down is dollar display calling before return keyword and return, and I'm going to have calling after return keyword. So see here, I'm used a display statement and calling before return keyword, and return keyword I've used and calling after return keyword. Let me run this. Let us see what are we going to get. Okay, since it's where it is. Sorry. Since it's a void function, right? We cannot use return keyword. See, the error we are going to get function add underscore to underscore num should return a value where it is 28. I think it's a another type of error which we are going to get. Cannot use void function displays expression 26. Now it is giving error. So previously we were not getting error, but now we are going to get error. Result is equal to display. Now let me uncomment this and let me have only the display statement. Yeah, let me run it again. Yeah. So you can see over here, I'm going to get calling before written, but calling after written, it is not displaying at all. Okay. Can you able to see this? If this particular compiler encounters this written statement, it is going to come out of this particular function and it is not going to execute the lines which are present below this particular written keyword. Okay. Exactly. After written keyword, the lines which are written, basically those are being not executed. Okay. Yes, exactly. Correct. So that is how you are going to use your functions. Yes. So any doubts or any queries in this particular functions or functions? Basically, we haven't started with tasks yet. We'll start it in our next session. Yes. So if you have any doubts or any other queries you wanted to discuss with me, you can stay and discuss, or else you can leave the session. Okay.